I'm Sylvia Sams. I'm the Executive Director at Women's Habitat. Women's Habitat offers two main services. The first one is our Violence Against Women shelter. The shelter offers 10 women and their children. Right now there's 18 children and 10 women a safe place to live. We have staff on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. We also have a crisis line, and that crisis line took over 1,000 calls last year from women seeking assistance and trying to deal with a relationship that's violent. So during this pandemic situation, people are being told to stay at home, flatten the curve. But for the women we work with, staying at home is not a very safe place for them to be. A lot of the women we have spoken to, and our calls have increased at our helpline, and the calls have increased in terms of seeking service at our outreach program. Women are talking about the fact that their abusive partner is now home, and they're trying to get support, or trying to get sort of like some strategy in terms of how to stay safe and how to leave. And we're being told that they're in the grocery store, going to the bathroom, and that's where they're phoning us for support because the abusive partner is now home all the time. So one of the other aspects of this pandemic is that, as I said, in terms of the staying at home, but it's the isolation. Abuse really feeds on isolation. Women feel that they're to blame, that this is their fault that this is happening, that they feel that if they did something different, they wouldn't have been hurt physically or hurt emotionally. When women come to shelter, they sit around the dining room table and they talk about the fact of what's happened to them. And for a lot of them, this is the first time they've talked about this. No one knows about it. No family, no friends, no work colleagues. And all of a sudden they realize it's not just me. This has also happened to you. And realizing that it's not my fault. I could have done everything perfect and this still would have happened to me. So I think it's really important when we're doing this work, and for the public, for all of you, is that we have to start constantly reframing the question rather than asking, why does she stay? Why do we look at the fact as, why does an abusive partner think that they can actually hurt somebody that they say they love? So this pandemic has just highlighted that for the people who are vulnerable, we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job ensuring that they get the support they need. We have to make sure that they do a better job in terms of the fact that getting safe and affordable housing. We need a national housing strategy because a lot of our women who come to shelter are struggling and really want a home of their own, but can't. As we all know, rents in Toronto are extremely high. Landlords can be very picky of who they're picking or who they're choosing for their tenants. And a woman with 2 kids who is a sole support parent is often not the first choice. So I think for all of us, we need to really be much more kind and be much more kind to the people that really look for us for support. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm here today with a report from Romero House about how the COVID-19 pandemic is adversely affecting refugee claimants in our city. Romero House serves hundreds of people who are struggling in profound ways right now, trying to process information and navigate systems that they are unfamiliar with in their second language for most of them. Many of the refugees that we are in touch with are living isolated in apartments in the community or in city shelters. As of today, there are just over 250 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Toronto shelter system. You may be shocked to hear that 80% of these cases are in refugee shelters. Just imagine fleeing for your life to Canada to arrive to this horrific situation. We need you to raise your voice and ask the city for answers. This is simply not acceptable. Furthermore, access to healthcare is essential for everyone during this pandemic. And we are dealing with a long-standing issue of lack of recognition of refugee health insurance by healthcare providers. Refugees are covered by something called the Interim Federal Health Program. It looks different than OHIP, so many doctors' offices don't accept it. We have been working to educate providers for years. It is time that the province steps up and does their own education to ensure that no one is denied healthcare at this time. Even more, the province has issued an emergency order that everyone living in Ontario should receive medical care for all conditions, regardless of status or if they have insurance. But we still hear reports of refugees getting hospital bills, even for COVID-related sickness. We need you to call your member of provincial parliament today. The government needs to ensure that this does not happen. How else can you help? Romero House is continuing to look for donations of used laptops and iPads, as well as art supplies to help kids and adults alike with online learning at this time. If you have a computer around your house that you are not using, consider donating it to a refugee family in need. Or if you have art supplies or are willing to donate a gift card or money to go towards that, we would happily receive that as well. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors.
Us at the clinic, like many of you, are trying to think about what are some positive things that might come from the COVID disaster. And I think when I reflect on what's gone on since the pandemic hit, I think poverty is one of those social issues that we might be able to significantly move the needle forward because of what's going on now. So let me explain further. One of the things that happened when the pandemic hit in February, March, April, May, we've seen record high unemployment numbers in Canada, people who've lost their jobs because of the forced shutdown of our economies and our communities. And our government has stepped in really quickly to provide much needed support to those families, to those individuals, through the introduction of a number of social assistance programs. The one that you're probably most familiar with is the CERB, the Emergency Response Benefit. And under that program, people are receiving $2,000 a month, people who have lost their employment because of the COVID pandemic. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about that level of support versus what people who are on social assistance collect. Currently, people in Ontario who are on what we call Ontario Works, which is general welfare, collect about $700 a month. Those who are on disability support programs might collect $1,300, $1,400 a month. That's a really different number than $2,000 a month. In the case of OW, CERB is almost triple that. We hear lots of people talking about how difficult it is to survive on CERB. People who are used to earning more money, who all of a sudden are having to survive on $2,000 a month, are finding it a real struggle. And I'm sure that's true. I asked those people to imagine what it might be like living on $700 a month. I think that the fact that the government has acted as quickly as it has to provide this income to people in need is a great opportunity for all of us to see CERB as an example of a minimum income program and the benefits that a minimum income program can offer to lift people out of poverty and support people when they're in need. So when we talk about a minimum income program, the idea behind that is simply that we as a community, as a society, decide that we want to make sure that no one in our community falls below a certain level of support. We recognize that everyone needs a certain amount of money to survive day over day, month over month, to live a life of value and meaning that isn't a daily struggle for them. The idea of a basic income program has been around for generations. We've had various experiments with it before in Canada, in the 70s in a rural community in Manitoba, and very recently in Ontario through the basic income program that was introduced through our previous provincial government, but cancelled when the government changed. The idea for this program is that we take all of the money that usually goes into the administration of complicated social assistance programs and the bureaucracy associated with multi-layered social assistance programs and redirect them into support. That's what CERB is. And I think CERB gives us the opportunity to see collectively, one, that we actually can afford a program like this, and two, the benefits that it provides to keep families, to keep communities moving forward and feeling positive. So my fervent hope is that COVID-19 and our collective experience with all of these income replacement programs will allow us to inspire us to move forward with a basic income program nationally, and so that we can ensure that going forward we can eradicate poverty. Thanks very much for your time and your attention today. I hope that you're all doing well and staying safe.